In this episode of Talking to Myself, I'm going to be talking about how to overcome your worst possible fears. So I'm going to explore three parts of this, 3 or 4 parts in fact. I'm going to explain what fear is, what I think it is anyway, look into then why it keeps coming up, why your fears keep coming up in life situations, how to deal with it, how to heal with it, and then if I think of anything else I'll add it in as well. But they're the main areas that I'm going to cover. So first of all, what is fear? Fear is actually not real, but it seems real. There's a good acronym that people use, it's false evidence appearing real. And that is very accurate, to be fair. A lot of the times for fear, majority of it is in our head. And the actual scenario is nowhere near as bad as it is when it's being played out in our head. So, the reason why this is the case, in fact, the fear seems worse in our head because our ego is going into survival mode. It wants to protect you from the unknown, so it stops you doing that thing that's either new or perhaps you had an experience in the past that didn't go so well. So it wants to prevent that happening again and again. So it basically does everything it possibly can to stop you taking physical action. So it will scare the living daylights out of you mentally. The case of, let's use a very common one, public speaking. Public speaking, people fear the judgment. People may laugh at you if you get your words wrong. Perhaps in the past you said something and people looked at you in a funny way, and your brain remembers that, the ego in particular. And like I said, the ego is quite scared of these sort of things, even though it doesn't mean just because something happened in the past it's going to happen again. But it basically takes the snapshot of the worst case scenario that happened, of the most extreme version of what happened, holds on to that emotion, and then it replays that. So it goes, you know what, this has happened before, rather than it happening again, I'm going to stop you going into that scenario, so therefore you're protected. Now, I've mentioned this in some other clips. This is the brain's survival mechanism, which stems back to the caveman days, which would protect you from a lion, a bear, whatever. But it's applying the same mechanism to something like public speaking or going into the unknown. Obviously now we can differentiate between actual survival and what our brain deems to be survival, in this case judgment. So we know 99% of the time, going into a public speaking scenario, you're not going to die. But it feels like death because it's the unknown and it's a fearful situation. So, where am I going with this? Yeah, so the brain is basically is playing tricks on you to stop you actually taking action. And what you've got to remember is this fear actually needs to be explored in order to be overcome. So a lot of the times people would feel that fear. So let's go with the public speaking. They would feel the fear and they would avoid it. So they're just, maybe the fear presents itself in a way that your chest tightens up, your heart palpitations, you start getting heart palpitations, you start sweating, your hands get sweaty and clammy and all that sort of stuff. So maybe this happens, and a lot of times without even questioning it, that fear gets so intense, so much, that we literally just avoid doing it completely. We don't explore it, we don't even attempt to overcome it, we just stop. We just stop there. Anytime an opportunity comes up, we literally just back out. And what happens is, actually, you tend to find that the things you fear keep coming up over and over again. And the reason for this is because this is actually creating a blockage, an energetic blockage. Now, whether you believe in this sort of stuff or not, the energetic point of view, is quite irrelevant, because the point is you need to be open-minded to actually see it from this perspective. And so, let's say you fear something, it creates a blockage. And you know there's a blockage, just use the case of the feeling in your chest. Like I say, from a physical point of view, there'll be a blockage in your chest, and this gets worse every time you think of doing public speaking. But the reason why you'd keep coming across the scenario that you fear, now the universe is very intelligent. Like I said, whether you believe in this stuff or not, it's actually seems to be very true in the case for myself anyway. And what it's actually trying to do is trying to put you to face that fear and overcome it, so that energy blockage is released. It's like a tap. If there's a blocked tap, or part of a tap that's blocked, the water cannot flow freely into the sink, or maybe it's into a river, or I don't know, wherever. So the point is, it's trying to unblock that blockage so the energy is flowing. That's what the universe wants. Flow. A flow of energy. Continuous flow of energy. So what it will do is continue. The bigger the blockage gets, the more likely you are to face this thing until that blockage is cleared completely. And how do you heal the blockage? Clear the blockage, sorry. Yeah, and heal it. You need to go into that fear. As bad as it feels, you need to face it head on. Now, initially, that first time you go into that fear, the thing you fear the most, it's going to be painful. Because you're not used to that feeling. Your brain has tricked you into thinking it's going to basically kill you. So it's almost going to feel like a death. What you need to remember, it's not real. You are safe. And this is where a lot of stuff like meditation and yoga comes in handy, because it actually trains your mind to differentiate between what is just your thoughts and what is actually happening. Because a lot of times we can't differentiate between the two, and we think that these negative thoughts are real when they are far from real. They're just thoughts that pop up to stop you doing things, to talk you out of it. So the first time you go into that fear, if it's the case of public speaking, the first time you do a public speech, you may mess it up, you may get it wrong, and it's going to your heart is going to feel like it's sinking, pounding, everything. Like whether you get it right or not, it's going to feel that way. You got to remember, this is actually a good thing. We see this as bad because we're not used to doing this sort of stuff. The reason why it's good is because you're getting rid of that blockage, so you have to keep doing it again and again. It's like the more you chip away at it, the more you face that fear head on, that blocked tap, that lime scale or whatever, imagine that on the tap. You're scrubbing it. With each scrub, each time you do it, that blockage is getting less and less. So the fear will get less and less in your case. And eventually, if you keep at it, you won't even feel that fear in your body. You won't feel that anxiety, that pounding chest, whatever it was you was feeling before that doing that thing you thought you feared. It becomes so natural that you're thinking, I can't believe this was all just a trick. So, I'm going to pause the video for 1 second. So yeah, in summary, I had to pause because I was just, I kind of lost my thoughts. Anyway, to overcome that fear, you've got to be put in a position where you're facing that fear. So face the fear head on, and it will gradually get better with time. Now, I want to do a little, almost like a subsection of this. This is applicable to relationships, for example, as well. And what I mean by this is like I say, it's a subsection. It's leading on from that. So obviously, to face something to overcome something we fear, we need to face it head on. But in the case of relationships, to heal something, we need to experience the opposite. And what I mean by this, if you have, let's say in this case, a fear of abandonment, you need to experience the opposite in a relationship, which is someone that sort of has a close attachment, it's always giving you attention, to know the difference. So you'd experience the opposite of it. And why am I saying this? Because to overcome something, not only do you need to face it head on, but you need to know what the opposite of it is. What is it not? And what does this look like from the opposing point of view, to actually fully understand both sides of it? It's like this: if you would go to the gym and you did a chest bench press, yeah, sure, your chest might look good, but unless your back is also being trained, you're going to be uneven, you're going to be disproportionate, and part of your muscles in the front are going to be overworking, whereas the back muscles are going to be underworked, and it's going to cause some sort of injury, something like that. So you actually have to experience the opposite of the thing that you fear as well, or the thing that you're trying to overcome, to be able to properly heal it. So let's go back to the case of if you've got a fear of judgment, which I said about the public speaking, you need to be put in that situation, but then to also know what judgment fully is, you need to know what not judgment is. Now I know this sounds like a bit of wordplay, but you cannot understand what one thing is without the opposite. We live in a world of polarity, and that is the only way to make two parts into one, to make it into a whole. So I'm waffling a bit. I'm going to pause again because I just want to make sure I'm concise with my words and not rambling on, so give me a second. Yeah, so what I want to leave you with, to just sum it up, because I don't want to keep rambling. So once you become aware enough of what things are inside you, what sort of fears you're having, what things are giving you anxiety, I would firstly look to see what the opposite of that is. So you've got, say if you've always been feared, like we'll keep to judgment again, look to understand what it would look like from the opposite perspective of someone that has not that fear of judgment. So try and look at it from a perspective of two different people. One person scared of judgment, one person not scared of judgment. How would they do things differently? Look to see all the situations in your life where you've been put into a position where judgment has occurred. Obviously it's different depending on what your fear is, but we're sticking to judgment. So look at all the times you've had that fear of judgment. Look where it's come up time and again, where it stopped you doing things. And you'll realise that thing that you feared has come up in every area of life. Because life is trying to say to you, face this fear, get rid of this blockage, okay? So once you understand it from both perspectives, you can see, so this is what I'm going through, and this is what it looks like if I transcended it and got to the opposite side of it. Because not everyone has the same fears. And ultimately, it depends on our childhood, our upbringing, all this kind of stuff. So try and understand both perspectives of it. So once you know what you're going through, you'll know what it feels like to be on the opposite side, and then you can face it head on. Look at the situations that come up, where that fear comes up, and gradually look to do those things again and again. Set up situations where you've got to face that fear. If you've got the fear of judgment, perhaps you go speak to people, random strangers in the streets. You can start off little things like that. Gradually you might speak in front of a group of 3 people. Then you build it up, speak in front of your work colleagues. Then you build up to do a speech. Or you might go do comfort zone challenges where you do silly things in public to overcome it. Okay? So look at both sides of it, understand the polar opposites, and face the fears head on to transcend them. Hope that helped. Love you all. Speak again.